Greetings and welcome to the Saco City Council meeting for Monday, May 9, 2022. Call the meeting to order at 6:30, and first up is a joint meeting with the school board. We welcome all the school board members and school superintendent here with us this evening. At this point is just a open joint meeting. Again, those that have any questions, concerns, please seek recognition and you can share those. Superintendent Ray, do we have any updates that need to be shared with the council?
Well, certainly we always have updates, and I'm always willing to speak when there's a microphone in front of me. So I think just a couple of brief things that I think that the council and school committee, sometimes things move pretty quickly, should be aware of. This started a couple of weeks ago with a conversation with Bill giving me a call on the phone about the possibility that one of our hotels in towns could be hosting a large population of refugees from another country for an entire year. There's been some conversation about that, and we continue to get kind of different information that could be a possibility for us. Now, in talking with school departments in the area who have had the same experience, it has brought a fairly significant amount of students into the school department for that year, particularly those who will need additional English support. So if that happens here, and again, it's tough to plan when you don't know what the impact would be, we could see at the elementary some challenges with needing additional staff. Now, certainly there are times that funds are promised from the Department of Education for relocations like this, but other superintendents have informed me that has been difficult to see those funds come the school department's way who have seen this impact. So as we think about those pieces and we think about knowing that a majority of our building permits, when we studied the reopening plan, were on the 95 section of town. That would be where the hotels would be available. It would be interesting to think that we might see a little bit of a kind of a bubble at Young School. Now, fortunately, if this occurs, the other piece that I had on the list to talk to you guys about was that we are starting the construction phase of the 4 auxiliary buildings that were part of the federal funds when we recognize that piece at Young School. So this may be a situation where one problem that we were adjusting may just luckily solve another challenge that could come our way of would we have enough space? And I would think on that side of town we would. If it impacted class size at Burns School, this could be a real challenge for us to think about what we would need to do in order to get that off the ground. The other challenge that could exist in this situation would be the hiring of additional ELL staff. Individuals that, one, is not even thinking about unbudgeted costs, but just finding people with the correct certification can be a bigger part of the challenge. So that's something that we really have to think about for what could happen over the summer and how we react to that situation to provide classroom setting, space, et cetera, et cetera. So that has been something that we are waiting to hear more about. I believe that our staff expected to hear more this Friday from a regional group if this was going to happen, and then we'd have to think about the impact from all of those factors operationally and educationally of what we would need to put in place in time. One of the challenges that it could possess is that this information most certainly will come after a budget vote, and so we'd have to think about where those funds would come out of and which line and how we would go through that process. Financially, on the carryover side of things, I think we would be able to come back and say, yes, there's enough carryover to work with this scenario, and then we would need to really advocate at the state level for additional funding. School departments who lose students in a fashion of 10% or more have there's a quick up-ramp to getting additional funding in the next cycle. And I know that a couple of superintendents and I had a discussion about those who gain need to be able to have that same experience for their communities of saying, how do you get funding quicker? So that's something that's on our horizon. Second piece is I really would would ask for you guys to mark down May 24th on your calendars for 6 p.m. at Saco Middle School. We will have our next community meeting about the building project, and we expect to have all vernal pool test results and wetland studies back at that night so that we can really start to talk about site selection, talking about the recommendations from the program committee, so that we can really start to pick up speed to move this forward. There's a lot of work to be done once those decisions start to get made, and that's going to be a very important meeting on May 24th at 6 p.m. Saco Middle School. Okay, from my end, that's the update that I have. Open up to board or questions or.
Any questions from the council? So council, the first thing that Superintendent Ray is talking about is the city of Portland with the governor's office is working to relocate folks, and this is all private in the sense that it would be the city of Portland contracting with a hotel, not with the city of Saco. This would all be done in a private setting, but as far as City Administrator Cainrath understands is nothing has been finalized as of yet. So that's why there's some uncertainty about what may or may not occur as we look forward to the next school season and how many students might be joining the Saco school system. So we will keep you up to date once there's some finality with what the City of Portland is doing. Councilor Berman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Superintendent Ray. I was actually just remarking to the people on my left that I read an article in the paper about Portland being full of refugees and unable to accept any more, being out of both shelter and short-term housing space, and lamenting on the fact that Saco couldn't step up and do more to help. So I'm pleased to hear that we may be part of the solution and would be eager to be supportive in any way that I could be in rehousing these people and giving them a safe place to live, if needed.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments from the board? Questions, comments? So this is our joint meeting for the month of May, and then I believe we have a recap in the month of June. So if you like any of the budget process, please share that information. If you didn't like any of the budget process, please share that information as well. Councilor Berman.
Yeah, I guess I do have one more question. The uptick in COVID due to these highly transmissible variants, what that's looking like for the rest of this year, and as we plan for the future, and how can council be supportive in navigating that?
So one of the challenges with the uptick in COVID is certainly masks are optional and recommended. And that is something that we have to consider all of our public policy around those pieces. We've seen a little bit of an uptick, but one of the pieces that is challenging for schools is that while pool testing is ending, and I know that you guys are probably all familiar with pool testing, we had several conversations with the CDC, and pool testing just became less effective with the new variant and the fact that you're already shedding the virus by the time the results come back. So as a school department, we have tons of tests that are available for families to access. So if you have any symptoms at all, we encourage you to reach out because we can send home a test kit with your child each and every day. I would have to say, Mr. Councilor Berman, that reading the article online today about the expected 100 million cases nationwide next fall and winter wasn't exactly what any school administrator was hoping to read. And I think what's a little bit challenging is that we see some of the support, whether that be in testing, in other pieces from the CDC and the federal government, starting to move to the direction of not having any of that. We'll need to continue to worry about space. We have a good supply of masks and hand wash over the years. We've been able to build that up. That will be still there in the fall. I think the way that people could support the most would be to, if you have an off day and you would be willing to be a substitute teacher, that's really how people could help us the most. And I know that, municipalities have rules about counselors and and school committee members and all those places working and being in a school. We struggle from day to day. And if, I'll put a little challenge out to the Saco City Council, the Biddeford City Council, and the Dayton Selectmen is, while you couldn't work in your own community, it wouldn't stop you from coming over to one side or the other and helping each other out. Because day in and day out, the lack of substitutes is the most challenging thing that we have to do with, because that puts a pressure on every other teacher and staff member in the building, because they want to do the right thing, they help out their colleagues, they pick up extra, and that is the piece where we struggle right now the most, as you have a 5-day quarantine period and being able to have enough subs. I would also ask you, Mr. Berman, to continue to post anything to the college students at UNE that would like to be a substitute teacher. We've worked that avenue very hard, but that's how people can help out.
Councilor McPhail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Along that line, Councilor Wright, what, just for the public knowledge, what are the current requirements for a substitute teacher? So if somebody did have some time on their hand or wanted to help, I know that that's changed over the years.
So at this point in time, it's a high school diploma. You would have to be fingerprinted from the Department of Education and pass a background check. We look to have some orientation sessions. Our pay is up to 100 and, off the top, we changed it a couple of times this year. I think we're 125 a day now, and 150 for a retired educator. And so those are the requirements that we would have, and we would welcome all people who are interested to go through the process and become a substitute.
Okay, any further questions, comments? Last chance? Okay, then we'll conclude the joint meeting with the school board and move on to the city council meeting. In general, school board, you're welcome, more than welcome to stay and hear all the good stuff that we're going to talk about tonight as we go through the budget and all the motions. If not, thank you very much for attending, and have a great evening. Okay, we will begin this city council meeting if there's no objection. So I think we changed the rules in order of business that the joint meeting would happen from 6:30 to 7:30. If there's no objection, we will move forward now. Hearing no objection, we'll move forward and start the council meeting at 6:44 p.m. Let the record reflect that all councilors are present, and I'd like to invite you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. That brings us to item 4, general. There was a proclamation, but it's actually now been changed to a resolution, and you'll find that under action items, item K. And that was to make sure that the council got a chance to weigh in and vote on this all-important topic. So that brings us to item 5, any committee correspondence to council? Committee correspondence to council? Saying no committee correspondence at this time. Moving on to item 6, public comment. Nobody had signed up for public comment. However, if there's anyone who would like to speak to the council, please come forward and be heard. State your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing nobody coming forward, we'll go on to item 7, approval of the meeting minutes for April 25th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Councilor Hatch, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Berman. Any discussion on the minutes? Roll call vote on the minutes. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Minutes pass 7-0. There's no consent agenda this evening. Brings us to item 9, action items. And the first up is on page 3 in your packet, adoption of the fee schedule for fiscal year 2023. Councilor Archer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City Council establishes and approves all fees and charges required by ordinance or policies in the City of Saco. This includes permits, licenses, approvals, and applications, as well as fees and charges collected by the City of Saco that are authorized by state law or require the city to set the amounts of such fees and charges. The council may establish any new fees or charges that the council deems necessary or appropriate to offset the cost of operating programs, delivering services, or administrating any ordinances or policies. Those fees shall be included in the fee schedule and updated on an as-needed basis. Be it ordered that the City Council approve the amended fee schedule for fiscal year 2023. I move to approve the order.
Motion's been made by Councilor Archer, second by Councilor Johnston. Any discussion on adoption of the fee schedule for fiscal year 2023? Seeing no recognition of members that want to talk about that item, we'll move on to voting. Roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. On page 4 in your packet, item B, adoption of the fiscal year 2023 Water Resource Recovery Department budget. Councilor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor Doyle. The fiscal year 2023 operating budget for the Water Resource Recovery Division is $3,599,078, which is supported by a sewer user fee rate of $6.25 per unit. Be it ordered that the City Council adopt the fiscal year 2023 Water Resource Recovery Division budget for the City of Saco, Maine as follows. Approve gross expenditures of $3,599,078 to be offset by $3,599,078 in anticipated revenues and other credits, which represents a 20% increase in the sewer user fee rate to $6.25. And further approve those appropriations as determined necessary and appropriate by the city administrator from those impact fee funds where available and corresponding with the estimates presented for approval in the city administrator's budget book or as adjusted and presented to council during the course of budget deliberations. I move to approve the order.
Motion's been made by Councilor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor McPhail. Any discussion on adoption of the fiscal year 2023 Water Resource Recovery Department budget? Hearing no discussion, roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Brings us to page 6, item C, adoption of the fiscal year 2023 municipal budget. The main motion, Councilor Gunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On March 28th, 2022, the city administrator presented his fiscal year 2023 budget. The council met with departments and agencies to review and discuss budgets and workshops through April. Be it ordered that the City Council move to adopt an appropriation order for the adoption of the fiscal year 2023 budget, excluding all school, county, and TIF transfers per Section 6.6 and 6.7 of the Charter of the City of Saco, Maine, as follows. Approve gross municipal expenditures of $30,563,478. Expenditures to be offset by $30,563,478 in anticipated revenue and other credits, which represents $3,215,222 in anticipated state revenue sharing and $8,624,580 in other revenues except those revenues received from the state or for homestead exemptions and BETE reimbursement, with the net to be raised by local taxes. And further, be it ordered that the approved amounts set in the following attached schedule titled City of Saco Fiscal Year 2023 Appropriation Order shall become a part of the city clerk's records and shall designate the form of the City of Saco budget for fiscal year 2023 as authorized under Section 6.4 of the Charter of the City of Saco, Maine. And further, approve these appropriations as determined and necessary and appropriate by the city administrator or their designee from these special revenue funds where available and corresponding with their estimates presented for approval in the city administrator's budget book or as adjusted and presented to council during the course of budget deliberations. I move to approve the order.
Motion's been made by Councilor Gunn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Johnston on the main motion of the municipal budget. Now that the main motion is open, I would look to encourage you to go to page 8, item 1, an amendment to fiscal year 2023 City Administrator's Budget Number 1, Biddeford Saco Old Orchard Beach funding, and that is Councilor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor Doyle. I would like to put forward an amendment to the city administrator's budget that fully funds the BSOOB Transit using TIF funds. Be it ordered that the City Council fully fund BSOOB Transit at $250,000, and furthermore, move BSOOB funding from the Spring Hill Road TIF to the Downtown Development TIF in the amount of $102,500, and the balance of the total funding be paid out of the transit-oriented TIF. And be it ordered that $250,000 for the Route 1 sidewalks and signal be funded solely by the Spring Hill Road TIF.
Motion's been made by Councilor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Johnston on the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing no discussion on the amendment, a roll call vote. Councilor Archer.
Aye.
Councilor Purdy.
Yes.
Councilor Gunn.
Yes.
Councilor Berman.
Yes.
Councilor Hatch.
Yes.
Councilor McPhail.
Yes.
Councilor Johnston.
Yes.
Amendment passes 7-0. Brings us to page 9, item 2, or C2 rather, an amendment to fiscal year 2023 City Administrator's Budget Number 2, the County Dredge Initiative. Councilor Berman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to put forward an amendment to the city administrator's budget that uses $170,000 in ARPA funding to support dredge operations. While the higher numbers were initially being suggested, it's now clear the dredge will come in the middle of our fiscal year. In addition, the permitting and plans will not be in place for next dredging season in fiscal year 23. Therefore, the budget needed is for assembly, training, and hiring of an executive director who will start establishing contacts and schedules for dredging operations. The plan is that this executive director can have contracts in place to provide funding for the fiscal year 24. Therefore, be it ordered that the City Council increase ARPA expenditures by $170,000 to support dredge operations as laid out in the attached budget.
Motion's been made by Councilor Berman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor McPhail. Any discussion? Councilor Johnston.
Thank you. I think
I think several of us spoke in support of this previously. So I just would like to reiterate that support. I think it's hard to predict the future, regardless of what happens with that spur jetty. This is a unique opportunity that has presented ourselves. Really, the stars kind of aligned with the federal assistance, where we can at least address some of our needs down there. I think I know the answers, but just for the public's awareness of this, I guess I'd address this to Mike. We're not hiring any staff. The city's not hiring any staff, correct? Essentially, this is seed money for an organization to be set up to run this dredge.
That's correct. The intent is to set up a BSOOB-style quasi-municipal organization that will be headed by an executive director that this will fund. And that executive director's primary job will be to establish contracts with local municipalities in order to fill the first dredging season, which will ensure operations for subsequent fiscal years. This is not a city employee. This money will be held until such an entity exists that can both take possession of the dredge from the county and then direct its operations for the first year.
All right, thank you. The only other question I had was, in the unlikely event, I would think that this organization isn't created, would this money be returned, or are we not even handing this money out until the organization is created?
My understanding is there would be nobody to give this money to until that organization is created.
Thank you.
Also, this is a contingency that this organization be established, and that there's an executive director in place before the county will give the authorization to purchase said dredge. So there is a contingency on the county commissioner's vote. Council Archer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also wanted to add one of my reasons why I'm supporting this is year over year, we spend about $250,000 on sand replenishment. And the way I've looked at it is this is a possible way in order to reduce that annual year over year cost, where we can use the material used in the dredging to actually offset some of the cost of that $250 annual. And again, we are completely limited by, when we're buying our sand, really limited to market options. So this can actually help offset some of these market demands on the replenishment of sand. So I'm looking at it from a fiscal investment perspective year for the next few years. I'm going to be watching it just to make sure that we're seeing what some benefit out of it from a cash perspective. So that's one of my main reasons why I'm supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this amendment? On the amendment only, roll call vote. Council Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Amendment number 2 passes 7-0. Brings us to page 15, number C3, amendment to fiscal year 2023 City Administrator's Budget number 3, age-friendly Saco. That's by Councilor Berman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to put forward an amendment to the city administrator's budget that fully funds the request from age-friendly Saco. Be it ordered that the city council increase account 10620-500717, age-friendly Saco, by $56,500.
Motion's been made by Councilor Berman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Archer. Any discussion? Councilor Hatch, and then Councilor Berman.
I'll defer to Councilor.
Councilor Berman.
Yeah, thank you. Some discussion is needed here, again, because this overlaps with amendment number 4, which seeks, I think, to fund the same position, move it to ARPA funds, and purchase a van for Saco Parks and Rec, which could be used also by age-friendly Saco. While I'm not particular about the source of the funding, I do retain some concerns about using ARPA funds to purchase the van for a couple of reasons. And one is that in my time on the Saco Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, I've not heard the need for a van for Saco Parks and Rec brought up, and I'd be curious to hear from Director Summer before I could have enthusiastic support for that. I'm also aware that there are several Parks and Rec needs that are coming against the ARPA funds, including Cascade Falls, Prentice Park, and a teen center. And the teen center will also have staffing needs over time. And so I'd be curious to hear about Director Summers' prioritization of those ARPA funds and where they fit in to the Saco Parks and Rec priority. Therefore, I continue to want to offer this amendment in order to create a vehicle by which to ensure that age-friendly Saco can continue to offer its transportation options without the need for those other things like the van.
Director Summer?
So thank you for your time. Right now, what's being utilized is the Saco Parks and Recreation minivan that we currently have. We have pretty much taken it offline. We've allowed Saco Age Friendly to pretty much use it at their pleasure. Very seldom does Amelia take it or some staff will use it versus what we've done recently is we forced staff to use their own vehicles to get to and from programs. So if you purchased the van, what would happen is we would get the old van back. Ideally, we would use it for our programming needs, and the new van that is purchased would be used for the age-friendly transportation program itself. So we're not gaining a vehicle in my mind. What we're doing is we're just getting a vehicle back in our fleet that we desperately need for my staff to get back and forth to their program without using their own personal vehicles.
Any further questions for Director Summer while he's up here? Councilor Hatch?
Thank you, Mayor Doyle. I guess, Glennis, I'm going to direct this question at you if I could. I just want to make sure that the $56,500 includes $2,500 to get the original $7,500 request to $10,000. Is that correct?
Yes, this motion fully funds the ask from Age Friendly Saco.
All right, thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? And Glennis, this would be coming out of the general fund, right?
Yes, this
So
would
this would
be
affect the mill rate.
this will be an increase to the tax rate, yes.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call vote on this amendment. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
No.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1. That brings us to page 16, item 4, an amendment to fiscal year 2023 City Administrator's Budget Number 4, ARPA funding for age-friendly Saco. Councilor McPhail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to put forward an amendment to the city administrator's budget that allocates $125,000 from ARPA funds for the following: the purchase of a new van for Saco Park and Rec, salary coverage for the senior coordinator at $60,000. Excuse me. The remainder of those funds be available for Age Friendly to obtain additional grants. Be it ordered that the City Council allocate $125,000 of ARPA funding towards Age Friendly Saco in need of a transportation program.
Motion's been made by Councilor McPhail. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Gunn. Any discussion? Councilor Berman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In a wild move, I'd like to move to amend the amendment. I would like to strike salary coverage for the senior coordinator, $60,000, from this amendment, thereby reducing this request for funding to $65,000. That would prevent overlap with the amendment we just passed, but still allow the purchase of a van.
Okay, so we have an amendment to the amendment to reduce the $125,000 by $65,500. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Purdy. Any discussion on the amendment to the amendment? Counselor Hatch, then Counselor Johnston.
Just a point of clarification, if I may. Thank you, Mayor Doyle. So we're striking the first bullet in the amendment, which would eliminate the van?
You're striking bullet point number 2, the salary
2, I'm
coverage
sorry.
for the
Okay.
senior coordinator, which was just approved by the council in a 6-1 vote
So,
in budget amendment number 3.
My intent was to reduce the overlap between the two motions by removing the the senior coordinator from this request.
great, thank you for that. So that would leave $65,000 to cover a van, and the third bullet indicates that the remainder of do we know what the cost of the van would be? Have we any idea? Yeah, so if it's well below the 65, and I have no idea what they cost, but we're going to be sending additional funding to Age Friendly based on bullet point 3. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right.
Just remember that Age Friendly is an organization that gets $7,500 today, and the investment, or the return on investment, is hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I clearly understand that. Yeah.
Any further discussion? Councilor Johnston, did you?
Thank you. Yeah, I understand that also. I guess my concern remains with this concept of adding to the city fleet as I understand it. Now, maybe I don't understand it, but it seems to me that the city is buying this van. This will be a city-owned and operated van?
This would be a Parks and Rec van, yes.
Okay, so I guess I was correct. And I guess, like I said last week, my concern is adding to the city's fleet. I'm sure there's other departments that have current needs in that regards, and we're adding a van to a Parks and Recs department that doesn't seem to have a use for this van when we move into hopefully another direction, because long-term, I'm more concerned that we're having a Parks and Rec department run a transportation service. It seems like it belongs in a different department altogether. So again, that's my challenge with this. Thank you.
I think this, as Director Summer pointed out, this solves a problem with city staff using their own vehicles to do things on city time. So having an additional van assigned to Age Friendly would alleviate the staff from having to use their own vehicles for purposes of Parks and Rec programming.
And I understand that, Mr. Mayor. The problem is it seems we've created a problem from prior actions, and now we're solving it by spending ARPA funds, which, again, they're one-time funds here. I guess I look at it and say, if this is a long-term goal of this council, it makes more sense to buy a van the way we normally do, which is through the lease purchase system. And then we are accounting for this van long-term and understanding that it is our desire to have it in the fleet. I see a challenge in future years where this van needs to be replaced, and we're, some of us may be up here still looking and wondering how we got a van that was just straight up paid for with ARPA funds. This hasn't come through our normal process of adding to the fleet. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote on a motion on amendment number 4. Council Archer?
No?
Mr. Mayor, point of clarification. Are we voting on the amendment to the amendment, or?
Yes, I apologize. We are voting on the amendment to the amendment to reduce the $65,500 from the original amendment. Council Archer, on the amendment to the amendment.
No?
Councilor Purdy.
Yes.
Councilor Gunn.
Yes.
Councilor Berman.
Yes.
Councilor Hatch.
Yes.
Councilor McPhail.
Yes.
Councilor Johnston.
No.
Motion passes 5-2. The amendment to the amendment passes, reducing the request for $125,000, down by $65,500. Back to the amendment as now amended. Any further discussion on the main amendment? Roll call vote on the main amendment. Counselor Archer.
No.
Counselor Purdy.
Yes.
Counselor Gunn.
Yes.
Counselor Berman.
Yes.
Counselor Hatch.
No.
Counselor McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Johnston.
No.
Motion passed. The amendment passes 4-3 as amended.
Can I ask a point of clarification? Counselor Berman had stated to reduce the salary coverage for the senior coordinator, which is 60,000, but then you stated the amendment to the amendment was 65,500. So was the reduction of the main amendment 60,000 or 65,500?
I think it was 65,500 to, because that's what was approved in budget amendment number 3 for, 56,500.
Okay, so the reduction was 56,500.
The intent of the motion was to strike the second bullet point altogether and reduce it $60,000, which would make the request $65,000 in total. But there was some confusion in the way it was read back.
So the amendment to the amendment is to remove $65,500, and that amendment passed.
Because the second bullet is 60,000.
I understand that, but the item that was read into the record and passed by council was to reduce it by $65,500. So unless we want to rescind and go backwards and undo the amendment to the amendment, I think you're still left out of the 125,000, you're still left with enough money.
Just for clarification, Councilor Berman, I think your motion was to strike 60,000 from the 125,000, correct? Leaving 65,000?
The motion I tried to read was to strike the second bullet point, which was salary coverage for the senior coordinator at $60,000 from the $125,000 that the amendment originally asked for, which would have left us with $65,000 out of ARPA funds. I believe that number got changed upon a rereading at some point.
Just like to add that, as Councilor Berman just stated, that's what I understood, and that's what I seconded.
So do you want to read into the record an amendment to put the money back in, to bring it up to where you want it to be, Councilor Berman?
My understanding is that the Parks and Rec Department needs a van to make up for the van being used by this program. If the current amount of $59,500 is sufficient to purchase the van, then I'm okay with it.
I'm looking back at Director Fox or Summer to confirm. That does seem like enough money.
We were just looking back there at how much a van actually costs. You can buy a Honda Odyssey for about $35,000. 2020 LX, so it's sufficient, you know, and if you want to go that high, but there's some vans out there that you can purchase.
I'd like to make a motion to reconsider the last vote.
Second.
Okay, you're reconsidering the amendment to the amendment on number 4 that was passed 5-2 to reduce funding from the $125,000 on $65,500 $1,500. So with that, is there a motion there's a motion by Counselor Berman to reconsider, second by Counselor Gunn. Any discussion on the reconsideration motion? Roll call vote on the reconsideration motion. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Reconsideration passes 7-0. We're back to the original amendment to the amendment. Counselor Berman.
Thank you. In light of new information and the intent of this amendment, I believe, is to ensure that there is a van that's available for use by Saco Parks and Rec staff, while age-friendly Saco uses the current van for the transportation. And the cost of a new van that would meet Saco Parks and Rec's needs is for approximately $30,000. I move to amend this amendment to a total of $30,000.
I will second that.
Okay, so the amendment here is to amend amend to reduce the $125,000 to a total of $30,000.
That is correct.
Any question on the amendment? So you've reconsidered the vote that you took that passed amendment number 443. You've reconsidered that. So we're now back to the amendment to the amendment. Any discussion? So Finance Director Salas, this would leave $30,000 for the purchase of a van and leave nothing for the age-friendly organization to continue to do the good work for the community by looking at grants or increasing any of their opportunities for additional financial increase.
So in total, Age Friendly would be funded at the requested $64,000 in their funding letter. So that was about $55,000 for the coordinator, and then $10,000 for grant matches and other activities. Sorry, $54,000 was requested for the coordinator position, $10,000 for ongoing support, so grant matches, et cetera, for a total of $64,000. This amendment, as amended, funds an additional van for Parks and Rec.
Thank you. So that is where we are at this point. Any questions on the amendment to the amendment? Roll call vote. Counsel Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
No.
The amendment to the amendment passes 6-1. Okay, back to the now main motion for number 4, that it was reconsidered and now has been amended. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
No.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch? Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
No.
Motion passes 4-3. That brings us to page 17, item number 5, amendment to fiscal year 2023 City Administrator's Budget number 5, police cruisers. Counselor McPhail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The police department has identified a critical shortage of vehicles due to supply chain issues. A dealer has notified us that the Ford Explorers will be available for purchase in May, but that future orders could be delayed as long as 24 months. Therefore, we are recommending that the cruisers be purchased as a one-time use of the fund balance in fiscal year 2022 and that an offsetting amendment be approved by council for fiscal year 2023 to zero out the cruiser line as a one-time adjustment. Be it ordered that the council decrease line 10462-500501 cruisers by $139,000 and decrease line 10350-300-800 use of fund balance by $139,000.
Motion's been made by Counselor McPhail. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnston. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Page 18 in your packet, amendment number 6, and that is hybrid meetings, and that is Counselor Johnston.
Thank you. I would like to put forward an amendment to the city administrator's budget that funds the required investment to run hybrid meetings in council chambers in the first floor conference room. Be it ordered that the city council increase ARPA expenditures by $20,562 to fund hybrid meetings in council chambers.
Motion's been made by Counselor Johnston. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Archer. Any discussion? Counselor Purdy.
I've struggled with this one. First comment is that in Saco, we have a representative form of government. It's not a town meeting model. I guess if the point of the hybrid meeting is to see who can shout loudest on the meeting, I don't see the point of it if it's to enable participants in the meeting to participate from a remote location for whatever necessary reason, then I can see that as an advantage. But I can see a lot of pitfalls to this too. I welcome and encourage public input, but there are plenty of ways to contact the mayor and council, whether it be by phone, email, or the U.S. mail. I mean, also the meetings are broadcast on cable and Facebook, and they're available on YouTube. At this point, I'm not entirely convinced that this is necessary, and not convinced that it's in the city's best interest. So right now, I can't support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Counselor Archer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I look at this in a different perspective. I see this as increasing the access to your government, and as many of us know, the city government, the municipal level, is really where citizens can actually speak to their government, petition their government, and so on. Where I see this as a benefit is in today's society with technology. This allows those who live in the nursing homes to have access to the council. It allows those who may be parenting young kids. It allows them access to here, because bringing a child here would be most disruptive, I think, in some circumstances. So I see this as a way for the city to really open itself up to those who cannot drive for capacity reasons, for disability reasons, or things like that. So I see this motion and these funds to fund hybrid as a model in which we can be more available to our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further? Counselor Johnston.
Thank you. Yeah, I echo Counselor Archer's sentiments there. The intent here certainly isn't to see who can scream the loudest. I think it's getting into the 21st century. I can remember a time as a small child sitting in this very auditorium and it being packed with a generation of people that cared enough to show up. Times have changed. That same generation happens to be older and more confined to their homes. And a younger generation, people my age or younger, for whatever reason, whether it's other life commitments, they find that the only way to participate is online. And this gives the opportunity to have that, something I think, as I've always said, I hate operating in a vacuum. And I think oftentimes I feel that way, and it's largely because I'm not hearing from the public. This gives the opportunity for the public to speak and be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Berman.
Yeah, thank you. I actually largely agree. I think of the 10 or so people in the audience, I know the names of almost all of them, and it would be great to hear from some more people. I do have a question about the process, though. As I keep saying, I'm a little concerned about the pressure we're putting on the ARPA funds. And I noticed, Director Salas, on your screen, you have the year 1 ARPA funds, but not the year 2 ARPA funds, even though they're listed in our budget book. Does that mean that when we vote on the budget tonight, we are only voting for the year 1 ARPA funds, and the year 2 ARPA funds will be brought back next year? And do we have a way of tracking where we are if we meet all of the commitments we're making this year and all of the projected commitments in our budget book for next year?
Yes, so in terms of tracking where you are, that's in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. So this is what's committed both for year 1 and year 2. This is the total allocation. Certainly, any of these appropriations that are being made this evening could be designated for year 2. I did not receive direction to designate these particular council amendments to year 2, so I put them into year 1, assuming there was some urgency related to them. But if a councilor would like to move it to year 2, we could certainly do that. The city of Saco does not really do multi-year budgeting, so council would more or less reapprove the year 2 items. They are in this book, in the section that was kind of reviewed as part of the city administrator's budget development process. So if there's any of those items that the council would like to remove from the budget, certainly that can also be brought to the floor this evening, and we could take them out of year 2.
I guess my larger concern was that there are some items budgeted for year 2 that I feel very strongly about, and while I'm not concerned about the timeline, I am concerned about overspending ARPA funds such that the funding wouldn't remain for those things. But we would catch that up in your upper right-hand corner. If that number gets negative, we would know then there's no longer funds left for those year 2 items. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any further questions? Councilor Gunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If this were to pass and we would implement some form of hybrid meetings, of course, as a council, we set our order of business at the end of the year, though, or in this case now with the staggered terms, the commencement of the new term, which legally is now every year. So I have a question either for the city administrator or whoever would be the best to ask this question. If we were to implement this, approximately how long would it take to get this thing up and running? And do our current order of business in terms of public comment, public participation, let alone people participating if they were remote, though, and they had business to be here in front of the council, does our current order of business, would it match up well with a hybrid meeting, or would we have to do some sort of mid-year special order of business revision?
City Administrator Canrath, would we have to create a policy? Obviously, we would have to change the council rules in order of business to adopt hybrid meetings, but I'm sure there would be a policy that needed to be looked at as well, as we've done with the, as we did not too long ago, actually, with this kind of hybrid issue. We would just have to look at that more in-depthly. And none of your decisions here tonight take effect until July 1 in the new budget cycle.
I would agree with that, yes.
No, well, I guess to reiterate my question was, obviously, yes, it doesn't take effect till July, though, but assume that best-case scenario, we could have hybrid up and running in August or something. We still have an order of business that applies to it not existing. So would we have a 4-month leeway, or would we be a situation where we would hold off on hybrid meetings until we actually do change the order of business, so it would reflect that, sort of putting the wagon before the cart?
I think in that 4-month interim period, we could certainly make those changes to rules and order of business, and I think we get hybrid up and running in that time, technologically wise also.
Thank you, City Administrator. And the reason I bring that up is to reiterate Councilor Purdy's points. Our orders of business make it very clear that the public has a right to speak to items, speak for 3 minutes of pretty much anything they want during general comment, but at the same time, we're under no obligation to tolerate, for lack of a better term, repetitive or incendiary language, though. And the last thing we want is to have people from the comfort of their own home basically add an extra hour to the city council meetings, though, by repetitive comment, and we're essentially trying to, compel us to vote one way or the other, when, as Councilor Purdy pointed out, there is more than one way to contact us, and truth be told, if recent committee and board meetings are any indication, though, that private contacting of your representatives may actually lead to a more fruitful and result than basically trying to own the room by shouting. So truth be told, I just don't want to see this sort of gum up the works. I want to respect people's right to freedom of speech, but at the same time, we also have business to do up here, and that's the reason you brought us here. So I just want to make sure that's taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Archer?
Yeah, my question was more related to this. So we're trying to figure out what's left of what we've kind of already talked about for this year. We've kind of not added any future expenses into this current budget, so there's $150,000 remaining from what we've identified this year, correct?
No, the $150,000 is both year 1 and year 2.
But year
remaining.
2 is already, while we don't see it here, it's already calculated in here.
This number, this 1958054, includes year 2 items in the city administrator's budget, as well as anything that's been approved by council until this moment for year 1.
And thank you. And according to this, there's no more ARPA funds in these amendments? We've already gone over those?
There is still funding proposed in an amendment from Councilor Johnson regarding a bypass road from Smith Lane to Stockton Avenue, and then $10,000
So
for EV
85
charging.
off of 150, so we're still looking at a good 70,000 available. And that's 150 remaining is considered this 20,000, or is it not?
No, this number does not include items not yet passed by council.
All right, so, okay. So even with this amendment, we're looking at about 50,000 still available. Okay.
Any further question, Councilor Purdy?
Is there anything for the dredge included in year 2?
No, I only received a request for year 1 funding. It seemed that there was going to be alternative funding mechanisms for year 2, although I didn't receive any more information than that.
And follow-up to that is there the possibility that we may need some of these funds for the dredge?
Again, the idea is that the dredge would somewhat pay for itself after you get it operationally up and running and contract with other communities as part of the quasi-governmental agency, much like BSOB, where the 3 communities all put in $250,000 to help fund operations, and then where they get the rest of their money is through ridership.
Yes.
So
yeah.
the similar kind of thing would be looked at for the Southern Maine Regional Dredge Program, or whatever we call it, or whatever it gets named. That's kind of the same guiding principle as.
No, yeah, I understand that. I was just trying to see if there was the possibility that we might need some of these funds. I don't see the need to spend every penny just because we can. I think keeping $150,000, we've spent $170, or at least on the dredge this year, and what else did we do on the? Yeah, so, I mean, we've spent, around $200,000 of it. I don't see the harm in keeping some of it available for year 2. Just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Berman?
Well, I agree with Councilor Purdy that there are likely to be unexpected opportunities that arise in years 2 and 3, and it's prudent to save some money. I did want to clarify the issue of the dredge. There are 2 separate types of dredge expenditures we might make. This year, we are helping fund the basic operations of the dredge because someone needs to, and we believe the dredge will benefit Saco over the long term. In the future, Saco would be prudent to budget something to engage the dredge in dredging our sand to make use of the dredge, so that the dredging operations will be paid for by municipalities using the dredge on a fee-for-service type model. And that was how the dredge will fund itself. And so Saco may budget some money for dredging operations that will then be paid to this regional organization in order to engage the dredge to clear waterways and/or deposit sand on our beaches. But that's different than these costs, which are for general support of the organization. And the intent is that once the organization is set up, it self-funds through user fees. And so Saco may pay some of those user fees, but not in the same venue of the supportive money.
Thank you. Any further questions on the actual amendment that we're talking about, which is the hybrid meeting, $20,562 use of ARPA money for the hybrid meetings? Any further discussion on that amendment? Seeing nobody seeking recognition, roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
No.
Councilor Gunn?
No.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
No.
And Councilor Johnston.
Yes.
The amendment passes 4-3. That brings us to page 19, number C7, an amendment to fiscal year 2023 City Administrator's Budget number 7, a bypass road from Smith Lane to Stockman Ave. And I think we kind of agreed that this is just upfront study money and not actually forming the road, but that is assigned to Councilor Johnston.
Thank you. It'd be nice.
Sure would.
I would like to put forward an amendment to the city administrator's budget that funds the initial engineering of a bypass road or street from Smith Lane to Stockman Avenue. Given that it's been at least 15 years since the conversations about this road began, and traffic and safety issues have only increased, coupled with the recent or soon-to-be acquisition of a significant portion of the land needed, the city should begin making efforts towards future construction of the road in the upcoming fiscal year. Be it ordered that the City Council increase use of ARPA funds by $75,000 to fund a bypass road from Smith Lane to Stockman Avenue.
Motion's been made by Councilor Johnston. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Hatch. Any discussion? Councilor Berman, Councilor McPhail, and then Councilor Johnston. Councilor Berman.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I understand the road and its need and agree with its need. And I also believe in the value of having shovel-ready projects. So when other monies become available, having projects that are ready to go. I guess I'm looking for some clarification, and I don't know if that's from Director Fox or somebody else, about exactly what the $75,000 would buy and how far it would get us in that process.
And you're in luck because Director Fox is coming up.
It's my lucky day.
I'm coming to the podium. That doesn't mean I have an answer for you, but no. So the 75,000 would go towards a lot of the same design and making it a shovel-ready project that we're doing for the Ferry Road sidewalk right now. So Councilor Johnston's correct that through the planning board process and through recent project approvals along Route 1, a lot of the land for this eventual roadway has been secured. However, there are still a number of parcels beyond the one at the corner of Smith Lane that would have to have land acquisition or easements or rights negotiated. So I think part of it would be determining those. Part of it would be determining if there are any survey, components that we have to do to pick up if there are wetlands. Another thing that a bypass road along the back of those properties would do. So it would be to take the turning movements off of Route 1. So from a safety standpoint, it's safer to have a road along the back of business access that receives a lot of traffic. So these would all be necessary steps to arrive at anything close to construction or shovel-ready. Without this step, we'll just have rights to one property out of probably 4 or 5 until this step is undertaken. Another thing that could happen is all of the stormwater management and controls that is an area that feeds into Goose Fair Brook, or the Goose Fair Brook watershed. So all of their stormwater could be consolidated into a single stormwater pond and have other environmental benefits as well. So
That's what we would do. The 75,000 is an estimate, but we would use our existing engineering contracts and survey contracts to move this forward so you could get to a point and make a decision on construction.
Director Fox, how much would approximately a road connecting Smith Lane with Stockman Ave cost?
I would really be guessing. It would be quite a guess to that one. So if you want a really wide range, I mean, it would have stormwater. It would probably have utility access. We'd bring all the utilities through there for any future development of parcels along there, so we don't have to interrupt Route 1. So if it's along the lines of the last new construction road we built, you're probably talking, I don't know what that distance is off the top of my head. If it's close to 1,500 feet, you're probably talking 1.5 million, $1 million to $2 million. I don't know. I mean, it's significant. Any full new road construction is very significant cost. So somewhere in there. We haven't done any cost estimate for the actual construction of the road yet.
Thank you. Councilor McPhail, then Councilor Johnston. Councilor McPhail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Berman actually asked the first part of my question. So the second part would be, in reality, how long would it potentially be that we could even start that? And how long would the study be good for? Would a new study possibly after the construction is completed at the Pizza Hut location? Would something need to be redone? How long is that study going to stay valid for us to be able to
No,
perform the work?
we have all the proposed use and traffic data for the parcel that's going to be redeveloped. We have the existing uses of the restaurants, drive-throughs, businesses that service the rest of the area. To get the property rights from any remaining abutters over to Stockman, you would kind of have to put pen to paper and then follow through on some of this. And once you're done, I mean, you're going to have a design of a 24-foot roadway with a sidewalk and stormwater ponds. That stuff won't be out of date at any point. What would have to be updated every few years would be a construction estimate to actually, construct it. But the units would be there, the permitting you'd need, all of that would be done. So it's not a traffic study like what we might do along, say, Route 112, where you have to update the traffic numbers later on. This would simply be a project that would have to be funded for construction.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Johnston.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think Director Fox just really summarized where I was going with this from the beginning. I mean, the intent here is to get this ball rolling. I'm not suggesting we build a road within the next 2 years even, but the challenge, I've always seen sitting in this position and looking what city staff is left with dealing with is at some point they actually need the marching orders. And this is, a council saying, hey, we are interested in this. Because as I stated, 15 plus years, it's probably been longer than that this concept has been, talked about, discussed. I've watched, as others have too, property after property go through different changes of ownerships, and us or the city not securing those rights. I just thought this was the opportune time, given that we got such a large chunk through the Chipotle acquisition there, that we can just kind of complete it and have it on paper, and then obviously it's probably a future bond issue, or I mean it is in the downtown TIF district, so and that fund's growing, so maybe in the future that's where these funds come from. But I travel that roadway, as we all do, quite frequently, and I don't know if we can continue to add more businesses out there and not do something. Thank you.
Director Fox.
Just one thing to clarify as far as timing of it. Right now, the path of this roadway is clear and free of buildings and facilities. So if you don't lay out a design of where you want a roadway in the future and one of those parcels redevelops in a way that doesn't need maybe full planning board approval and it's just a site plan approval and you can't move this along at that time, you could have a structure or something in the way. So in that sense, you would want to know sooner rather than later if this roadway can be built there and have the plans so that any other development along those parcels can contribute towards it or potentially work around its future build.
Councilor Archer?
We've used the term before, paper streets. Can't we just kind of make it a paper street for now? And that way that no buildings would actually be, anytime something comes to the city, we'd be like, nope, hold on, we have right-of-way. Because we received it in the contract zone, correct? Within the last year or two? The right-of-way?
A portion of the land.
A portion of it, yes. So again, they would need to get our permission to build on it anyway. Couldn't we just do something less, call it a hold? Because I am concerned about, this year anyway, dropping the 75,000 to fund this, because I do see other needs that could be met, even though I do recognize this to be a need. Recognizing that if we don't spend all the ARPA funds this year, we could also do it next year. We could set aside those funds for next year. So does it need to be, do we need the study to say, hey, you can't build here? I guess is my question.
Well,
Or
we don't
are there
have the
other
right,
tools?
we don't have the rights per se to tell any of the remaining parcels that they cannot utilize their land at this point. So I think,
But the portion that was given
If-
deeded or whatever that term was.
but that gets you, if you could look at the back of the Pizza Hut parcel as we know it today, and you looked at the parking lot that's out behind there, that does not get you all the way over to Smith Lane. So if you look beyond that, you still need to go to the back of IHOP, a couple other parcels. There are some, there's already city infrastructure through there, so that is one advantage to what this corridor presents, is there's already a sewer line that services a large portion of Saco. So it's not like someone can plop a large building down in the middle of it, but we have no property rights to, so to even get it to the point where it is a paper street for now, perhaps that does not require the full 75,000 when I was asked what we would need to do to design the road. So perhaps the council could entertain a reduction of that 75, but you still need to know where it can go physically and around wetlands. You need to establish what that corridor is, enough to go to the property owners and secure the rights with easements or deed changes.
So I know you're on the spot, but you just offered it. What would be a proper reduction?
Sometimes I should just keep my mouth closed.
No, because I want to hear from you.
The 75, this was an amendment that came about late in the ARPA funds discussion. So it's not like I have a quote from an engineering firm for $75,000. But we have, a very capable staff that can supplement and make up for the numbers when I go too low with something. So we're fortunate to have a good team that can do that. If it was reduced to, survey alone is probably, which does have to be done by a professional survey firm, is probably going to be in the 20,000 range. You've got to have at least wetlands done for, and in this current market, these quotes we get are all over the place. But off the top of my head, another 5 to 10 there, a little bit of legal work for some deeds to be, or deed tables to be brought to property owners, and then the rest would be legwork by the city. So if you were to reduce to 40,000, we could still keep it alive and well and moving forward towards the original intent. You won't have it sitting on a shelf ready for construction with bid documents, but that would be a step. I think it's important to move something forward now, since we secured the rights to a parcel. It doesn't make sense to not ever move forward with it.
Councilor Johnston?
Yeah, I understand the concerns with the use of the ARPA funds, but this isn't something we should nickel and dime in, from my viewpoint. It's like either we're going to recognize it's needed and we fund and give staff the ability to go and do what they need. We've all seen it. Construction costs, everything out there is increasing by the day. So I think the initial estimate that Director Fox gave me was 50 to 75, and I aimed high on the high side of it. If we want to have a discussion about other funding source, I initially didn't indicate a funding source. I was thinking downtown TIF. I don't know what's available in that fund. I know that we're moving some funds around later on this evening, so maybe there's potential there, but ultimately, if it's needed, it's needed, in my point. From my viewpoint, and we have ARPA funds, it seems like it fits really in line with the intended use of those one-time funds. So that was my thinking.
Counselor Purdy, then Counselor Archer. Counselor Purdy.
Just, there are 4 or 5 properties that we need to get easements from, or
I would say roughly, yeah, 3 to 5.
has anybody actually knocked on the doors and talked to them about that, or?
I think some of them have had preliminary conversations. I feel like there was actually a letter, sent out. I think when we were talking about what the next steps would be, we looked back and I believe we did send out a letter during the start of the other project and them setting aside land. And I do not believe any of the property owners responded to the written correspondence. That's not unusual for a first request. Everyone's busy and it kind of lands in the junk mail pile.
We don't know exactly what any responses might be?
No,
I mean,
no, we don't know the responses. I think some of these take a lot of time and a lot of negotiation and a lot of back and forth to see the benefits. This could provide some parcels additional frontage for actually more dense and greater commercial development. So there are definitely returns on them providing the land to the city.
okay, thank you.
Counselor Archer.
Yes, because actually I was going to follow up with what Councilor Johnson said about using other TIF funds. So what came into my mind is now hearing it could be as low as 50. I was thinking about amendment in which we definitely get the 50 that gets it going, and then if there's 5,000, 10,000 here, we can find additional funds from another account. Again, I see this as a one-time opportunity, ARPA funds. Well, I don't think this will happen in my generation again, or for the next 100 years, where the government just here's $2 million, do what you feel you need. What happens if we don't spend $75,000? I guess this is to the finance director. If we don't spend 75, where does that money go? Does it just stay in the ARPA remaining balance?
Yes, so any unspent funds on ARPA would remain in the fund until expended, and we have until December 31st of 2024 to obligate or expend the funds, or they have to be returned to the government.
So if something like this, we'd recognize, I'm just, for discussion purposes only, say we find out that we only spend 63,000, 12,000 would, because you can, it's a specific item, so 12,000 would automatically go back into it. It wouldn't be used for something else.
It would remain in the ARPA, and we'd have to reconsider, although I would say in this current environment, the likelihood of funds remaining on any of these projects is low.
Thank you.
Counselor Berman.
Well, I'm appreciative of all the discussion of guarding our ARPA funds. They're not free money. They're money that's offsetting other needs that would otherwise hit the taxpayer and be part of our mill rate. I also think that Councilor Johnston is making sense when he says it's time to decide if we want the road or don't. And if we do want the road, then it's time to act on it. And starting the design and getting to a place where it can be put on a shelf and be shovel-ready makes a lot of sense. And it won't be cheaper next year, and it won't be cheaper the year after that, and it won't be cheaper the year after that. And it will be harder to get neighbors to sign on to rights in the future, especially if we don't have a plan. And it'll be easier now if we have a drawn plan to communicate with neighbors well in advance of what our intentions are, so that they can react accordingly in their planning and also get used to the idea over time. So I understand that need. I'm also looking at page 187 of our budget book, where I see Saco TIF and Economic Development Fund balances, and it looks like we're anticipating about a $217,000 balance in our downtown TIF fund, if I'm reading this correctly. And I'm wondering if there would be any reason or benefit to splitting this cost between ARPA funds and the downtown TIF, and if that's possible. And I don't know if Director Fox or Director Salas is able to answer that question.
I do know that Director Clavette did go through, analyze the ongoing expenditures to which we've obligated ourselves, including the additional $50,000 for B-Sub Transit, and there did persist a total fund balance on the TIF funds of, in her estimation, I believe it came to $600,000, although I don't have the final numbers in front of me. So to fund 50% of this out of the downtown district would be possible, especially where it's a one-time expenditure and not going to obligate the fund on an ongoing basis. So the short answer is yes.
And is there any advantage or disadvantage to doing so from either Director Fox's or your perspective?
I think it's in line with what's intended for infrastructure expansion and economic benefit. And frankly, we're used to splitting costs across multiple line items. That's usually how things get fully funded. So no operational hurdles from our standpoint to carry out the design.
I would say this is also, I agree with Director Fox. There's more flexibility with ARPA funds than there is with downtown development TIF funds, where we are taking the full ARPA as revenue replacement under the Treasury guidance. So that's something to consider.
Can I clarify that comment? Are you suggesting that would make it wise, because these costs could fit into the downtown TIF, that makes it wise to obligate otherwise restricted funds? Or are you saying that would make it wise to use the ARPA funds because they're broader?
I think it's wise to consider downtown TIF where we do have a balance available. It's not an ongoing expenditure, and ARPA is more flexible for other initiatives.
Thank you for that clarification.
At this time, I'd like to bring up Director Clavette.
The only question that remains that we would need to take a look at is, the exact location of the road in relation to the downtown TIF map. Is it in the downtown TIF? And if it's in the downtown TIF, then the next question is if the road improvement is a qualified expense. Yeah. Okay. Then that would work. Yep.
Thank you. Councilor Berman.
Great, then I move to amend this amendment to split the cost between ARPA funds and the downtown TIF.
Second.
Okay, that is an amendment to the amendment on number 7, supported by Councilor Berman, second by Councilor Archer, for a 50-50 split on the, make sure I get the number correct this time, so we don't have to do any reconsideration motions, to split the 75,000 funds, or study fund, 50% with the Downtown Development TIF District and 50% going to ARPA money. Is that your motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Councilor Archer, is that how you understand the amendment to the amendment?
That is.
Okay, on the amendment to the amendment. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote on the amendment to the amendment only. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0, or the amendment to the amendment passes 7-0. Back to the main motion now as amended. Any further discussion on the main amendment as amended? Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
The main amendment passes 7-0 as amended. Brings us to page 20, C8, an amendment to fiscal year 2023 City Administrator's Budget Number 8, Traffic and Pedestrian Safety. Councilor Johnston.
Thank you. I'd like to put forward an amendment to the city administrator's budget that creates a non-lapsing traffic safety fund for use on items the Traffic Safety Committee approves. Be it ordered that the City Council decrease account 10482 500-347 signs by 10,000 and increase account 10681 500-952-03795 traffic and pedestrian safety, annual $10,000.
Motion's been made by Counselor Johnston. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Counselor Hatch. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Amendment number 8 passes 7-0. Brings us to page 21, C9, amendment to fiscal year 2023 City Administrator's Budget number 9 to add a third firefighter/EMT. Counselor Purdy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to put forward an amendment to the city administrator's budget that adds a third firefighter EMT. Be it ordered that the city council increase account 10600/500290, short-term and long-term disability by $533, and increase account 10600/500289 FICA by $3,954, and increase account 10600/500288 health insurance by $8,298, and increase account 10600/500287 MPERS by $6,925, and increase account 10600/500215 by $325, and increase account 10470/500110 by $51,682, and decrease account 10472/500324 by $7,800 as a one-time expense, and increase 0386/500360/00011 Office 365 license by $225.
Motion's been made by Counselor Purdy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor McPhail. Any discussion on budget amendment number 9? Counselor Purdy?
Just simply that for the last 3 years, I've watched Chief Duras's presentation, and I'm struck by, I mean, yeah, we may have a shift of 9 firefighters, but if you've got 2 out on vacation or 1 on vacation and 1 out for training, you've only got 7 people in the station. And every year I'm struck by, you got 2 ambulances out there, and you don't have enough people to respond to a fire if there is one. Granted, we have mutual aid agreements and everything, but I'd rather see 4 shifts of 10 fully staffed, which gives us a minimum staffing of 8, 24 hours a day. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote on a budget amendment number 9. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes, or amendment passes 7-0, my apologies. Brings us to page 22, item C10, an amendment to the fiscal year 2023 City Administrator's Budget number 10, emergency culvert work. Counselor Johnston.
Thank you. During a recent inspection of cross culvert on Route 1 at Millbrook Stream Crossing, it was found that the last 40 feet of pipe has separated from the rest of the crossing and is causing the soil next to a road considerably. This pipe crossing is 20 feet below the surface, and further erosion or failure will create a significant hazard to the Route 1 roadway and surrounding utilities. Public Works is working with Maine Department of Transportation to determine a long-term replacement option and funding mechanism. However, a more immediate repair is necessary to ensure the stability of Route 1. The soonest this work can occur is in July due to material and contractor availability. The estimated cost of this work is $300,000, but we are actively looking for alternative approaches to reduce this preliminary cost estimate. Due to the timing of this development, it is recommended we budget $300,000 from fiscal year 2023 from the unassigned fund balance to allow moving forward with securing the contractors and materials needed to perform this work. Any cost savings that can be found between now and July will be reported back to council for reassignment as soon as work is completed. Be it ordered that the city council increase account 10681 500 952 07106 Route 1 Drainage Culvert FY 2023 by 300,000, and increase account 10350 300 800 use of fund balance by 300,000.
Motion's been made by Councilor Johnston. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Hatch. Any discussion?
Seems like it's needed.
Seeing no discussion, roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Amendment passes 7-0. And that completes the amendments that were in the packet. We did receive a couple of additional amendments, as I understand it.
I believe Counselor Gunn had requested an amendment.
Thank you, Director Salas. I've actually decided to rescind that one at this time, though, because upon discussions with Mr. Fox.
And so that completes all the amendments. Councilor Archer?
I do have an amendment. So at first, I do apologize for the tardiness of this, or the lateness of it, because it's in response to a vote we just took regarding the ARPA funding. Once I was speaking about the population that it could benefit, I also realized that that population, some of those populations may not be trained. So I am putting age-friendly on the spot. She is not aware of this. This just happened live. So I would like to put forward an amendment to the city administrator's budget that allocates $2,500 from ARPA for the training of age-friendly citizens for the purpose of hybrid meetings.
Second.
And with discussion, I obviously would like to speak to the executive director.
So you're putting the number 11 is to use ARPA money to increase the to $2,500 to age-friendly for an age-friendly citizens initiative to deal with the
Training
hybrid
of
meeting.
using a hybrid model. And again, I know it's just happened based on passage, so.
Well, so I would just remind you that you cannot tell them how they spend their money once you
Nope.
give the organization the
But you are
$2,500.
allowed, it's been identified for training.
Any further discussion on that? Council Archer has put an amendment, and I think Councilor Johnston seconded. Any further discussion? Did you want Director Saunders to come up?
That would be cool, that would be
Director Saunders?
great. So then, this was a need identified moments ago. Is it something that, and again, we had to go through this formality in order to discuss it, so I do apologize again for kind of how it worked out, but this is the time to make these amendments. Do you see that as being beneficial to your clientele?
Oh, I think that definitely one of our biggest challenges is reaching out, to our older population, so.
So the intent is
absolutely, yes.
2,500 to identify the training materials, people, whatever you need in order to help our citizens
Sure.
learn the hybrid model.
Yeah, we currently have a Tech Handy Helper program
Mm-hmm.
where we, help them bridge the digital divide, for various programs, so I could see that this would be, very appropriate as well.
And again, I apologize, off the floor,
Sure.
just passed.
Sure.
so.
I think I'd have to be trained first, though. That would be the first, the very beginning.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions, discussion on this item? Councilor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor Doyle. Thank you, Councilor Archer, for bringing that forward. And I do agree that, if we open up hybrid meetings, we need to really make an effort to get our older population connected. As Councilor Johnson mentioned, they were the ones that used to be in the room all the time, and I personally would welcome the opportunity to get them back into the municipal side of things. And I think it'd probably be a very good thing for them as well. So, great.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote on the amendment. Amendment number 11 to provide $2,500 to age-friendly for the purpose of training on hybrid meetings. Councilor Archer.
Aye.
Councilor Purdy.
Yes.
Councilor Gunn.
Yes.
Councilor Berman.
Yes.
Councilor Hatch.
Yes.
Councilor McPhail.
Yes.
Councilor Johnston.
Yes.
The amendment passes 7-0. Any further amendments? Seeing no further amendments, back to the main motion as read into the record by Councilor Gunn, second by Councilor Johnston, on the main motion, the main budget motion. Any further discussion? Finance Director Salas, where are we at with a mill rate increase? Is there one?
So based on the latest valuation numbers from the city assessor, the estimated mill rate will drop 60 cents versus prior year to 18.28. Again, this is an estimate, subject to final valuation numbers. The net tax levy will go up 4.82%.
Thank you. Okay, on the main motion, now as amended 11 times, Councilor McPhail.
Director Salas, now that, so we're showing we still have 89,000 left in ARPA funds.
That's correct, yes.
How does that go into a holding tank?
Yes,
Are
so
we
our,
able to come up with other items after budget if?
yes, absolutely. So all of the ARPA funding is recorded and tracked in a separate set of accounts. So it will not intermingle at all with general fund money, and it remains available for council appropriation either as a mid-cycle amendment or to hold until next year's budget process for FY20.
So if there are items that come along in
Yes.
the next couple of months in the future that we would just put them in as we would a regular council amendment?
Absolutely,
Okay,
yep.
excellent, thank you.
Any further discussion on the main motion? On the main motion, now as amended 11 times, roll call vote, Councilor Archer.
Aye.
Councilor Purdy.
Yes.
Councilor Gunn.
Yes.
Councilor Berman.
Yes.
Councilor Hatch.
Yes.
Councilor McPhail.
Yes.
Councilor Johnston.
Yes.
Main motion passes as amended, 7-0. Brings us to item D, the adoption of the fiscal year 2023, fiscal year 2027 capital program. Councilor McPhail, page 23 in your packet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On March 28th, 2022, the city administrator presented the fiscal year 2023 budget, which included as Section 3 of the overall budget, the 5-year capital program. The finance director notes that final costs for 2023 equipment may come in slightly higher or slightly lower than the figures set out in Section 3 due to rapidly fluctuating market conditions, and therefore the suggested motion includes an allowance to account for this disparities at up to, but no more than 10%. Be it ordered that the City Council approve the fiscal year 2023 through fiscal year 2027 capital program as presented by the City Administrator and subsequently amended by City Council. Such capital programs to also include up to, but not more than a 10% allowance for lease purchase cost on 2023 equipment, any savings to be applied to the capital program cost for the fiscal year 2023 through fiscal year 2027.
Motion's been made by Councilor McPhail. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Hatch. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to page 24, item E, a council resolution approving school budget fiscal year 2022 to 2023, and that is Councilor Berman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The school board approved a budget for fiscal year 2023 and has forwarded said budget to City Council for review and approval. Therefore, be it resolved pursuant to Title 20-A, Sections 2307, 1485, and 15690 that the following school budget cost centers be adopted and approved for expenditure for fiscal year 2022 to 2023. Regular instruction, $25,801,677. Special education, $11,030,238. Career and technical education, $0. Other instruction, $189,694. Student and staff support, $2,743,644. System administration, $995,520. School administration, $1,279,536. Transportation and buses, $2,012,724. Facilities maintenance, $3,506,341. Debt service and other commitments, $0. All other expenditures, $11,900. The sum of $47,571,273 be appropriated for the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, and the sum of $18,396,692 be raised as the city's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, in accordance with the Maine Revised Statutes, Title 20-A, Section 15688. State mandated explanation. The city's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, is the amount of money determined by state law to be the minimum amount that the city must raise in order to receive the full amount of state dollars. The sum of $0 be raised and appropriated for the annual payments on debt services previously approved by the city's voters for non-state funded school construction projects and non-state funded portions of school construction projects, in addition to the funds appropriated as a local share of the city's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12. State mandated explanation. Non-state funded debt service is the amount of money needed for the annual payments on the city's long-term debt for major capital school construction projects that are not approved for state subsidy. The bonding of this long-term debt was previously approved by the city voters or other legislative body. The school board be authorized to expend $47,571,273 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2023 from the city's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, non-state funded school construction projects, additional local funds for school purposes under Maine Revised Statutes, Title 20-A, Section 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidy, and other receipts for the support of schools, and the school board be authorized to expend such other sums as may be received from federal and state grants and/or programs and/or sources during the fiscal year for school purposes, provided that such grants, programs, or other sources do not require the expenditures of other funds not previously appropriated. I move to approve the resolution.
Motion's been made by Councilor Berman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Johnston. Discussion on the main motion.
You can tell I love the schools by how much I was willing to read.
Any discussion on this item? Councilor Johnston.
Thank you. I'm not really sure if it belongs in this section or the next one, but as I indicated via email to council earlier today, I think you all received it. It appears as though the school department is in need of additional funding to meet the stated, mission that they had spoken to us about previously as far as painting and the chairs or furniture. So I had sent a budget amendment to the finance director. I don't know if she had received it, and I don't know if the superintendent would like to speak on this, but I would still like to put that forward to fund this to the full amount they need in order to move this, not half do it this year and half do it next year. It doesn't make any sense to me to do it that way.
Finance Director Salas, did you receive an amendment this afternoon?
Yes, I did. I apologize. It just came in too close to the end of the day. But per the updated charter, Councilor Johnson, you can simply put forward a motion to amend the total school budget up, and perhaps the superintendent would like to speak more on this.
Bless you.
Good evening, everybody. As Councilor Johnson said, first of all, very thankful for the support about changing things at SMS and trying to get the furniture and painting in there. I think we kicked it off with Mr. Archer back in, I think we were March or February, and a lot of people have gone through. We've gotten kind of the final quote for the first piece of desks, chairs, teachers' desk items at about $340,000. That does not include installation. So back to Mr. Berman's question earlier, what can the council do to help? Power tools and everything may be something, if we don't buy the installation package of that, we'll see you all in September, every weekend in September. But, I would recommend a situation where we look at the installation package. We did get a quote on the painting of the hallways at about $83,000, and we've tried to get additional quotes. And again, everyone's so busy that they don't tend to want to quote you at looking at the cafeteria, library. In the first round of money for desks and chairs and those types of items, it does not include full teacher chairs. It does not include anything for conference rooms and or the library with that number. So if we're trying to take a bigger bite at the apple, certainly we want to try to do that. If not, we need to piece this together over a couple of years. My biggest concern around like certain furniture items is just, as you know, if you're buying tile at home and 1 year later the dye color's different, things don't match, and you're trying to get those items, that's the biggest challenge that we face. Also, the second challenge will be production and shipping and delivery of the materials in a timely fashion. Certainly we'll get them this year, but for a majority of those items, to get those before the start of the school year, even if the order is placed today, could be quite challenging.
Councilor Archer.
Yes, Superintendent, can the finance director just move your cursor? So I can see, yeah, thank you. It was covering it. We're not seeing year by year like past years, but 2.19% increase is a very low, that's one of the lowest I've seen over several years. I'm in the fifth budget, I believe. This 2.19% raise includes the initial contribution of what, that's already in here, correct?
Correct, $400,000.
So again, I recognize that you and your school board came up with a really reasonable school budget this year. And to be honest, I want to reward it. So what do you need to get that project done?
Well, again, I want to be thankful for the fact that we're putting things in. So I'm not, please don't say that I'm here asking, would I like to complete the job? Yes. Now, certainly we haven't quoted everything because it's not possible to get everything quoted because people just are so busy. I think as we look at $400,000 and we look at 340 of that going to our current order, knowing that in the future we're still going to need to look at storage, file cabinets, those types of things. Looking at installation, making sure that when we get the items in, that our teachers and our students are able to use them, and we're, quite frankly, with our custodial staff and maintenance staff, the ability to put together this many items in September is just going to be a real drain. So, a couple of hundred, I don't say this loosely, but a couple of $100,000 really allows us to begin to address library, storage, and the other painting that needs to be done. As we think about future budget cycles and knowing that this year we may be in a position that is a little bit better of a, number to handle, it would be appropriate for us to be able to scale that number back over the next upcoming years, because we know that we'll very shortly in the next year or so be voting on a new school and all of the pieces that have to go with that. So we'll have to take those numbers into the consideration of what future budgets look like.
So you're saying you need an additional 400? That was the initial?
The initial was 400.
400 total?
That's what's in the budget right now, 400. It would be,
and you need how much more?
200.
200 more? Can our finance, so we're at 2.19. Can you add 200 to the school budget to find out what the change is, percentage-wise? We're still below 3% with that request for 200 additional thousand. I think this is where we knock it out in one attempt. Councilor Johnson's the one who initially brought it up, but it wasn't as a motion, I don't believe.
Oh, I would move to amend the school budget by $200,000.
Second.
Motion's been made by Counselor Johnston, second by Counselor Archer, to increase the school budget by $200,000. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing no further
Point of clarification, Mr. Mayor. Do we need to amend a particular line item, or do we just amend the bottom line of the school budget?
due to the charter changes last year, you cannot change the cost centers. So you're talking about the overall dollar number.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So just to clarify that piece, while the overall dollar amount would increase, if that was going towards, as this would be going towards desks and painting, that would go under the facilities line.
Any further discussion on this item? Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes, or excuse me, the amendment passes 7-0.
Thank you. Thank you for your support of the school buildings at Saco, and particularly Saco Middle School in this particular instance. Appreciate it.
And Counselor Johnston, in your amendment that you passed on to Finance Director Salas, you wanted that out of the undesignated fund balance, correct?
I didn't designate any fund, but,
Okay.
I mean, I'd leave that up to the finance director.
School appropriations come out of the school transfer account and cannot be offset by unassigned fund balance,
Okay.
so.
So on the amendment has passed now on the council resolution approving the school budget fiscal year 2022, 2023, main motion. Any further discussion on that item? I believe we have to vote on the council resolution approving additional local funds let me check, that might be an amendment. No, on the main motion, item E, on the main motion, as amended. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Counsel Archer.
Aye.
Counselor Purdy.
Yes.
Counselor Gunn.
Yes.
Counselor Berman.
Yes.
Counselor Hatch.
Yes.
Counselor McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Johnston.
Yes.
Item E passes 7-0 as amended. That brings us to E1, a council resolution approving additional local funds for the school budget fiscal year 2022-2023. Counselor Johnston. Page 26 in your packet.
Thank you. The school board approved the budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 and has forwarded said budget to city council for review and approval. Be it resolved that, I almost said 10,000, $10,384,274 be raised and appropriated in additional local funds, which exceeds the state's essential programs and services allocation model by $10,348,274 as required to fund the budget recommended by the school board. State mandated explanation, the additional local funds are those locally raised funds over and above the city's local contributions to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, and local amounts raised for the annual payment on non-state funded debt service that will help achieve the school department budget for educational programs. School board's statement of reason for exceeding essential programs and services allocation model. The school budget proposed for the fiscal year exceeds the state's funding allocation model for various reasons. In general, the model does not recognize the actual cost to operate and maintain the school program and curriculum. 2, the state is not funding the model at 55% of the actual total cost of education. 3, the state has added certain costs to the model without increasing available funding, such as the state share of teacher retirement costs. 4, the state has reduced or eliminated funding of costs necessary to operate the schools by such means as changing the student-teacher ratio, the student ed tech and other student staff ratios, and reducing funding of administrative costs. Note, Title 20A, Section 15671-A5B requires a separate recorded vote for these additional local funds and approval by the majority of the full council. Section 15690 provides for the school board's statement of reasons to accompany the article as provided to council. I move to approve the resolution.
Motion's been made by Counselor Johnston. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Berman. Any discussion on the council resolution approving additional local funds? Counselor Berman?
I'm under the impression that we may need to change this number to account for Counselor Johnston's amendment to the overall school budget. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And I move to amend the local funds raised by an additional $200,000.
Second.
Amendment's been made by Counselor Berman, seconded by Counselor Johnston to amend the $10,384,274 number by $200,000. Any further discussion on the amendment? On the amendment only, Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Amendment passes 7-0. Back to the main resolution as amended. Any additional discussion on the main motion as amended? Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0 as amended. Brings us to item E2, page 27 in your packet, council resolution approving adult education budget for fiscal year 2022-2023. Counselor Archer.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The school board approved the budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 and has forwarded said budget to City Council for review and approval. Be it resolved that $140,826 be appropriated for adult education and that $140,826 be raised as the local share with authorization to expend any additional incidental or municipal receipts in the interest and for well-being of the adult education program. I move to approve the resolution.
Motion's been made by Counselor Archer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Berman to approve the resolution. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote to approve the adult education budget. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Brings us to item F on page 28 in the packet, and that is to set the fiscal year 2023 property tax due dates and interest rates. Counselor Gunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under Title 36 MRSA, Section 505, a municipality may, by vote, determine the interest rate that shall apply to delinquent taxes committed during the taxable year until those taxes are paid in full. The Treasurer of the State of Maine determined that the maximum rate of interest that can be charged per Title 6 MRSA, Section 505, subsection 4, for the taxable year 2022, tax date of April 1st, 2022, is 4%. Therefore, for the fiscal year 2023 tax commitment, the maximum rate allowed is 4%. City Council has elected to set an interest rate of 4% for fiscal year 2023. Under Title 36, MRSA Section 506 and 506A, a municipality may set the interest rates for overpayment of taxes and authorize the prepayment of taxes. Therefore, we are requesting that City Council set the interest rate of 0% for the overpayment of fiscal year 2023 taxes and authorize the application of any prepayment of taxes directly to the tax account as they are received without having to pay interest on these prepayments. The tax payment due dates are as follows. First half due on September 9th, 2022, interest accruing from September 12th, 2022. Second half due on March 3rd, 2023, interest accruing from March 13th, 2023. Amendment to Easy Pay due date, continuation of the Easy Pay program for fiscal year 2023 with 8 monthly payments starting September 14th, 2022 and ending April 14th, 2023. Be it ordered that the City Council set the interest rate for delinquent fiscal year 2023 property taxes at 4%, set the refund interest rate of fiscal year 2023 tax payments at 0%, and authorize the tax collector to accept prepayments of taxes not yet committed without having to pay interest on these prepayments, and to establish the due dates for tax payments as follows. Payment for the first half due on September 9th, 2022, with interest occurring from September 12th, 2022, and payment for the second half due on March 10th, 2023, with interest accruing from March 13th, 2023. I move to approve the order.
Motion's been made by Counselor Gunn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnston. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Brings us to item G on page 30 in the packet, and that is to reconfirm the authority to apply tax payments to the oldest outstanding tax. Counselor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor Doyle. On October 6th, 1986, the City Council approved a tax collection policy which allowed the treasurer or the tax collector to apply tax payments received from an individual to the oldest unpaid tax bill first. We would like to reconfirm the existing policy with the onset of a new tax year. The tax collection policy is as follows. The municipal officers of the City of Saco have approved the request of the municipal treasurer and the tax collector that any tax payment received from an individual as payment for any property tax or personal property be applied against outstanding or delinquent taxes due on that property in chronological order, beginning with the oldest unpaid tax bill. Taxes may not be applied to a period for which abatement request or appeal has not been resolved unless approved in writing by the taxpayer. Also, on the 30-day lien notice or 45-day foreclosure notice, a statement will be added indicating the city's tax collection policy. Be it ordered that the City Council accept the tax collection policy as presented pursuant to Title 36 MRSA Section 906. I move to approve the order.
Motion's been made by Counselor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnston. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Brings us to item H on page 31 in the packet, and that is the acceptance of ARPA funds. Counselor Archer.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Mayor, the federal government has mandated that local legislative bodies take formal action to appropriate funds received under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. On the advice of the Treasury, the City of Saco will elect to take the full funding of $2,110,963.59 under revenue loss due to COVID-19. This maximizes the city's ability to expend funds to meet its most pressing community needs. Be it ordered that the City of Saco accept $2,110,963.59 in federal funding under the American Rescue Act Plan of 2021 as replacement for revenue lost due to the COVID-19 public health emergency in order to fund government services. I move to approve the order.
Motion's been made by Counselor Archer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Hatch. Any discussion on
Amended higher? No?
Any further discussion on that? Okay, seeing no further discussion, roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Brings us to item I on page 32 in your packet, and that is to unencumber fiscal year 22 TIF monies to support fiscal year 2023. Counselor Purdy.
Thank you. Finance and Economic Development have reviewed several projects budgeted for fiscal year 2022 and determined the funds are no longer needed, either because the project has been abandoned or because the funds are no longer needed because the project was delayed. These encumbrances free up funds for the fiscal year 23 budget approved by Council. Be it ordered that council unencumber $15,000 for broadband in the Industrial Park Road TIF, unencumber $100,000 for the sewer treatment plant upgrade from the Spring Hill TIF, and unencumber $50,000 for the sewer treatment plant upgrade from the 34 Spring Hill Road TIF, unencumber $75,000 for the sewer treatment plant upgrade and $100,000 for a parking garage, public parking from the downtown TIF. I move to approve the order.
Motion's been made by Councilor Purdy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Berman. Unencumber fiscal year 2022 TIF monies to support fiscal year 2023. Any discussion on this item? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Brings us to item J, page 33 in your packet, and that is to unencumber fiscal year 2022 TIF monies for the multimodal bridge. That is also assigned to Councilor Purdy.
The city has been informed that the multimodal bridge to Biddeford was pulled from submission to Senator Collins' office due to conversations with congressional staffers. This motion frees up unspent funding for other initiatives. Be it ordered that council unencumber $95,000 previously earmarked for the multimodal bridge to Biddeford from the downtown TIF. I move to approve the order.
Motion's been made by Councilor Purdy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Hatch. Any discussion? Councilor Berman, then Councilor Johnston.
Well, it obviously doesn't make any sense to leave money encumbered for a project that's not happening. I am saddened to hear this news, and I guess I'm curious about the current status of the project. I recall that we spent some money for a design, and I'm wondering what the next steps are for this project if it's not being funded in this way.
City Administrator Kainrath.
Thank you. So the project that is not dead, the city of Biddeford, in consultation with Senator Collins' office, has decided to pursue earmark funding for the construction phase of the project, which is a much bigger dollar figure than the engineering phase. So we will be moving forward with the engineering phase, and when it comes time for the construction phase, we'll be seeking an earmark again, or the city of Biddeford will. So it's not dead, it's just putting it off until we're ready for construction.
Thank you.
Councilor Johnston. All set. Councilor Archer.
Just in follow-up, so in reality, this is actually a benefit to the cities because they're willing to commit more money than the initial. Is that correct?
Well, it'll go through the earmark process, so we don't know what they're willing to commit. But the advice that that the Biddeford city manager and the city of Biddeford got was to wait until you have the higher dollar item to seek earmark funding, rather than just the engineering.
Yeah. That's good news.
Any further discussion on this item? Roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor McPhail?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item 34, a resolution recognizing city staff. Councilor McPhail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City Council would like to recognize the staff who worked through the pandemic. In appreciation for their efforts, full-time staff who worked in 2021 and are still employed with the city will receive 5 personal days to be used by the end of the calendar year 2022. Whereas in March 2020, the city, state, nation, and the world were faced with the unprecedented public health crisis, COVID-19, and whereas on March 16, 2020, the City Council ratified an emergency declaration proclaiming the COVID-19 pandemic a local emergency, and whereas since March 2020, city staff continued to rise to the occasion to combat each calamity to affect the community, and whereas May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and the City Council promotes the health and well-being of city employees, and whereas the City Council recognizes city staff successfully continuing service delivery while facing widespread illness, deep economic and social disruption, and the reshaping of city services. And whereas the City Council acknowledges the hardship experienced by our public safety, essential services, and public-facing positions, and values and appreciates all of Saco's employees. Be it resolved that the City Council authorizes giving all city full-time employees who were employed during 2021 and are still employed with the city 5 personal days in appreciation for their dedicated service. These days will be available effective Monday, May 16th, 2022, and must be used before the end of the 2022 calendar year. I move to approve the resolution.
Motion's been made by Councilor McPhail. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Archer to approve the resolution. Any discussion? Councilor Berman.
Yeah, thank you. It's brought to the council's attention that many staff endured great hardships during the pandemic, being on the front lines, public-facing, especially our first responder staff. And while this isn't much and probably not enough to recognize some of the hardships they encountered, it was just a token of our appreciation for the difficult times that people had, and it's something that we could do. So we just wanted to do this to say thank you guys for the hard work.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? To the left, to the right, okay. Roll call vote. Councilor Archer.
Aye.
Councilor Purdy.
Yes.
Councilor Gunn.
Yes.
Councilor Berman.
Yes.
Councilor Hatch.
Yes.
Councilor McPhail.
Yes.
Councilor Johnston.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0. That completes the action items for this evening. That brings us to item 10, administrative updates. City Administrator Canrath.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of very quick updates. First, I'd like to thank the Arts Commission for their work. You may have noticed the recently completed traffic signal cabinet boxes in downtown. There are 3 of them. So thank you for the Arts Commission and their work. And this is their first major initiative, and I think it looks great. I'd also like to thank the Thornton Academy students, Abigail Fox, Caitlin Rodriguez, and Riley Sullivan, whose artwork was selected for the cabinets, and also city staff for their involvement in helping this effort. To celebrate the installation of the art wraps and recognize the student artists, the Arts Commission will be hosting a traveling ribbon-cutting ceremony tomorrow, May 10th, at 1:30 p.m., meeting at Eastman Park and visiting all 3 capital locations, ending at Saco Island. Members of the public are welcome and encouraged to attend. So thank you to everyone there for their work. Another reminder about Election Day. So on Election Day, all wards will vote at Thornton Academy this year. That's on June 14th. Absentee ballots are available on May 13th. And the last day to request or vote an in-person absentee ballot will be Thursday, June 9th. Lastly, just an agenda preview for May 16th. We will have a joint meeting with the Planning Board. We will have a discussion on the contract zone reform proposals, a presentation on ward boundary redistricting from our city clerk, Chapter 186 public hearing, zoning map amendment for Woodman Avenue, Funtown, Splashtown, a special entertainment permit, and we'll have an executive session. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for City Administrator Canrath? Seeing no questions, moving on to item 11, council discussion and comment. Any council discussion and comment this evening? Councilor Archer.
Yes, thank you. Glennis, can you bring up the budget again? I just want to point something out. We're in a hyperinflated state right now, hyperinflation, and we're about 8%. Well, I'm glad that this council was able to keep it right around 5%, recognizing that we tried to reduce our cost, found innovative ways in order to do it so that we weren't looking at an 8 to 10% inflation rate increase. So I just wanted to point that out, that even though it is 5%, the local market is 8%, 8 to 9. We could get worse over time, so I'm actually quite proud of this budget. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any further council discussion and comment? Council, I just would like to get something on your radar on Tuesday the 31st as a potential joint meeting with the Biddeford City Council. So both councils, but I'd like to get that on the potential radar at this time. Any further council discussion and comment? Okay, that moves us into item 12. Is there a motion to enter executive session? Councilor Hatch?
Thank you, Mayor Doyle. Be it ordered that the City Council enter into executive session pursuant to MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, Section 4056, D1, discussion on contract where premature disclosure would prejudice competitive bargaining position of the municipality, and D2, discussion on contract where premature disclosure would prejudice competitive bargaining position of the municipality.
Motion's been made by Counselor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor McPhail to enter executive session. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to enter executive session at 8:51. Executive session will be downstairs in the conference room, and we will have a 5-minute recess, or let's just go 9-minute recess, so let's reconvene downstairs in the conference room at 9 o'clock. Okay, we're back at 9:34. I'll entertain a motion to exit executive session.
So moved.
Counselor Hatch, is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Berman, any discussion? Roll call to come out of executive session. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 at 9:34. There's no report from executive session. Brings us to item 14. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Counselor Hatch, is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Berman, any discussion? Roll call to adjourn. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Purdy?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor McPhail?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to adjourn at 9:35. Have a great evening, everyone.